body fat
body fat.
analysis, and you actually bring them in and you do that. What do
Yeah,
you use?
so
What
to do
system do
the,
you use to do that?
it's called an in-body. There are a number of systems out there that use body analysis, um, but it gives you an idea how much muscle mass a person has, the ratio,
Hmm.
where they need to go. Do they need muscle mass, or do they need to lose fat? And have plenty of muscle mass left. You always want to make sure they're maintaining their muscle mass as you're going along. And there's the numbers, hard numbers you can follow. Um, you can tell people there's some people just don't have, they're kind of skinny fat. Okay, they have a lot of fat relative to what they're supposed to be, but they have no muscle, and so they're not that healthy anyway.
Right.
And some of them have gotten there because they're so good about starving themselves
Right.
that they've starved themselves into a situation where they've lost a lot of muscle, their body has broken it down. And some people are more muscular than others too.
Hmm.
So there could be some other underlying causes there, but still, that's a real basis place to start because muscle mass is very important for
Right.
health.
When people lose weight, they first start a program and they lose 10 pounds in a week, 15 pounds in 2 weeks. Talk to us about what does that really mean, and is that really a
Well,
true analysis of weight
again,
loss?
you're having weight loss like that, you start to think, well, could they be losing that much? And is muscle mass being lost with that? A lot of times, as people start into fixing their diet, changing their diet, they get inflammation. You can see it in
Hmm.
people sometimes. They're puffy everywhere,
Right.
and you'll see that get better a lot of times when you're on the right track and they're reducing inflammation. And so a lot of that can be water weight that can be associated with that, and then they'll get rid of that. And some of that they lost was due to excess edema.
So
They
talk
had
about
them.
what is that? What is water weight? What do they consider that? Is that part of the equation? What do they
Well,
consider?
inflammation going on, it's going to be really hard to lose weight. Those
Hmm.
cytokines that are being floating around, they're stimulating you. The body's trying to keep weight on because there's problems out there, and we need to keep all the resources we have. We fat, muscle, everything.
Right.
Uh, so you're fighting an uphill battle. I find a lot of people in there. I ask a lot of questions about bowel questions.
Right.
Irritable bowel syndrome seems to be
Right.
pretty high in people who are overweight. And a lot of it goes along back to what they're eating and the
Right.
toxins that are in the food and eating the wrong things and their metabolism being all messed up.
Muscle loss, water weight. What does all that really mean? To sum it up, let's go over like a quick little explanation what that means when people are dropping weight very quickly.
When people are dropping weight very quickly, you you start to think a lot of it could be initially some extra fluid that's on board from edema, from just inflammation that's going on. You want to follow them. You want to follow them in body or some other similar thing so that you can make sure they're not losing muscle mass,
Right.
because that is the currency of health, is muscle mass in the long run. But losing muscle mass, that means you're probably not having enough protein intake to support that muscle, but also for the building blocks for the enzymes in all your
Hmm.
cells that aren't muscle.
Right.
They need protein also to function correctly.
We talked about in body though. What is an in body so people will know, because you got different metrics that you can use to actually test out what body fat is and what fat gains are. You got different metrics you can use. So tell us what in body does.
So it used to be the easiest way would do those caliper things where you pinch the
Subcutaneous
fat,
fat, where
or
you
you
got
pinch it on the belly,
yes,
and it
yes.
kind of, you go through a little scale and you give you
I got away from that.
yeah, it's kind of not that
Yeah, I know, right?
accurate. So, but the in body is uses these frequencies that it puts. You hold your hands and feet are all separate, and it puts different frequencies through your body. And it can measure each limb separately, and the abdomen. It can also actually measure your visceral fat.
Yeah.
And so that's really nice to do, have absolute measurement. And so you can see uh, if it's muscle mass you're losing or if it's fat. And then you
Right.
can also see the visceral fat as you begin to lose it. And that's the fat that's under the muscle,
Mhm.
around the organs. That's the fat that's associated with a lot of the bad stuff. A lot of inflammatory cytokines are released by that. There are things that come out of that will drive your blood pressure up. And so some people, depending on why they have high blood pressure, just losing a good bit of weight, they're going to lose those inflammatory cytokines that are being released, and their blood pressure is going to go down.
When you talk about diets, losing a little weight, different, you got different kinds of diets out there, different fads that people go through. You have keto diet, you have vegan diets, you have vegetarian diets, you have all kind of diets out there. So people get fascinated with these
Oh
diets.
yeah, it's always a
and
new fad coming up.
It's always
right?
a new one. I always say
So-
as a nutritionist, I meet people where they are, but tell us about those fads. It's always
Well,
a new
The
one.
thing about it is, most of them will work if you follow.
Yeah,
them.
anything will
Now,
work.
you might not be healthy with
That's
the
right.
result, okay?
That's right.
But you can lose weight on these things,
Sure.
and you can gain it all back very rapidly if you're not careful.
Very rapidly.
The big thing I believe is teaching your body, learning to understand why you're eating, whether it's just that you need the food, or is it the hedonic eating where you're getting a dopamine release, or is it conditioned eating because everybody's eating at 6 o'clock? Are you really hungry? Maybe not. But teaching your mind and body how to be less hungry is, I think, more of an answer than the calories in, calories out that fails 97% of
Right.
the time. And in doing so, you need to follow things like muscle mass. You need to, in some people, you want to see that improve and they'll feel better. And you want to see just them losing fat and visceral fat, the bad fat that's, I meant to say, that is associated with hypertension, cardiovascular disease, cancer, things along that line, diabetes. All of that is related to that visceral fat. And so
Right.